Alright, these are the contactors out of my lathe. They're shot. They're made by Enco. And here is their symbol right here. You can't get these anymore. They're discontinued. So that pretty much sucks. If you were to do a search on the contactor kits to replace these in here, you can't find those either. Now, however, they did make an aftermarket one by a company called Taian, and their symbol is actually, it's like triangular, but those are also discontinued. So once again, that sucks. Nobody wants to rebuild these things because they can't get parts for them, so the suckage factor just keeps piling up. However, as far as the aftermarket ones, I did find something that looks close to it, made by the Taian company. Now this aftermarket, so the parts are not as good in here, but even if the life cycle is, say, half as much, I'd still be fine with that. But I bought this off of eBay. It was only $20. It's used, just to see if the contact parts inside would match up to something like this. We'll take this apart real quick. They come apart pretty easy, just with clips on the sides. And I actually had this one apart before, and when I was taking it apart, I could get this side off, but not this inner side, because one of the contacts was actually had tack welded itself to the other contact. And so this is what we're looking at. You want to see if these are the same. As far as the other contacts, you know, we'll pull them both out real quick. To take this outer contact off, it's pretty simple. Just totally unscrew it. This top. Just get a little screwdriver in there and then just pry back a little bit and they pop right out. Alright, this was the one made by Enco, and you'll see the actual contact itself on the aftermarket one is slightly smaller. Now we'll compare the inner contacts. Okay, here's the inner ones, and they're in a spring and clip and everything, but if you just grab onto one and you twist it sideways, you can actually just pull her right on out of there without too much trouble. Here's the back side where you can actually see the contacts, and the actual contact part itself, the diameter is smaller than the Enco ones, but it doesn't matter. They are aftermarket ones, so I imagine they are going to be cheaper. They do look to be the same size, so I'm not going to use the contacts out of this one because it is used. I did go ahead and order me a brand new one from China. I think they're new old stock, and it was only 50 bucks. So what I'll do is when I get it out, I'll take the new contacts out and I'll just throw them in my old switches, and hopefully everything works out. Alright, it's been 2 weeks. I finally got my brand new switch from Taian. There's the symbol right there that I was talking about. Because you can't really see it on the other switch back here because there's a sticker over it. Anyway, the switches you can use is the CL-10L. This one I actually thought I screwed up because it's the CL-4L. The only difference is in the old one, the coil is 100 volts. This one you can see in here, it's 380 volts. Otherwise the switch is the same. So I'm going to use this as a donor. I should probably mention, if you're going to do something like this, you have, in order to get this particular kind of switch apart, you have to take out these screws, these bottom ones, and these. Otherwise, when you remove the clips on the side, it won't pull apart. Also, on this new switch, I was manually working this button, and on this side it got stuck, and you can see here, like, this one is down, this one's kind of up, so something got jammed up in there. It doesn't matter. I gotta take it apart anyway, and even if it doesn't work, I have nothing to lose by doing this. Sorry guys, this video just got a little more complicated. This is the used one that I ordered. It's the 10L, and the contact, the center contact, is the same size as my Enco one, the original one that's burnt here. Well, I accidentally ordered the 4L over here, and I pulled the center contacts out, and here they are right here. And as you'll see, they're actually longer than my original contacts. However, the center actual contact itself is the same diameter. It's not smaller like the ones over here. And I was thinking that might be a problem. The only thing that was going to save me is if these ends were shorter. Alright, but if you match them up, the new outer ones, you'll see the new outer is actually a little shorter, so that kind of works out for me. The center's longer, but the outer is shorter. And if you were to measure them using some sort of measuring device, the newer set that I'm going to put in there is actually about a 1/16 of an inch, might be strong, 16 strong, wider. So that means the contacts are in the center here are going to be off slightly, even though they're bigger. They're what I want. They're not the smaller ones. And I think it's going to be okay. I don't know what the tolerance is. But anyway, do not use the CL10L. Use the CL4L if you're going to buy a replacement for these, because they do have a wider contact. Even though they're longer, I think they're going to work a lot better. Also, take note when you do take these apart, you can't switch these around. That'll mess things up. So I took the bottom part off and I marked what the bottom cover was. I put a B just on the metal plate here. And as far as these switches go, I only have to replace the center 3, because if you look at the schematics here, the end ones don't even get used. So those contacts are fine. On the other end, when you put this together, this side here on the left side, you'll have to remember when you put this together, the contact you slide in there must go under it. The rest go over it, but this is the only one. That's part of the problem when I took the new one apart. This side was jammed. What happened is that end contact somehow got bent in there from the factory. That wouldn't have worked anyway. As far as pulling out these center contacts, these again do, in the original Encos, they do come out a lot easier than these newer ones. I actually pulled out all the springs and everything trying to get the brand new ones out, so that didn't work out. And the very end one, of course, I won't be replacing this one either because it's much smaller, and you would literally have to be the size of a 12-inch G.I. Joe to replace that. Even if you had kids' hands, you wouldn't be able to do it, because this is what it looks like. In that little thing there, you got your top little keeper, spring keeper, then you got the spring, and then another keeper, and then you got your contacts, and you got to crunch it all together, turn it sideways, and pull it out. Unless you have some sort of micro tweezers, you're not going to be able to do that. Alright, the reason why I said you should mark one end of these metal plates for the bottom is because when you take them apart, you'll see one side looks a little bit different than the other. This got a little bit of copper on it, and the same on the top. Well, the sides with the copper, they can't go together. They actually got to be on the opposite side, just like this, and then they go down. And you can actually easily switch these around. They look like they'd fit perfect, but you'll see both copper pieces are together here. That'd be wrong. This is the way it should go. Like that, when you put it back together. So, I'm not going to video me replacing the contacts in this, but I'll put it all together and take it from there. Alright, I got these contacts in. They look pretty nice, but I was having kind of a hard time, and I found a easier method putting them in. And what you have to do is, we'll take this one for example. if it's sticking out, because you got to push these down, but the plastic don't line up with the hole that nice. So you have to stick a screwdriver behind here, if you could see this. And as you pry it forward or downward, you use another screwdriver to press it in. And you gotta kind of rock it in. It won't just press straight in, and you don't want to break anything. This is all plastic. You could break this very easy, so you gotta be very, very careful. I got her all back together. Everything seems to work okay. And here's all my burnt contacts. So we're gonna put this back in the lathe and see if she works. When I went to rebuild this contactor, there was two of the contacts were tack welded together, so one was on this side, one was on this side. So I actually couldn't pull this thing apart. And you don't want to break anything, that's for sure. But what you can do in order to get by that is you just remove the center screw. You just pry this back a little so it pops out, and what it's going to do is it's going to pull one of the contactors kind of through, not out of it, because that's what you're trying to avoid. You don't want to pull it apart. You're going to wreck something, and these things are discontinued, so that's going to be a problem. But there's just enough room when you do that where you can actually get a screwdriver down there and pry that contact apart. And what it'll look like in there is it'll look like this, and you could just, there'll be enough room where you could just get in there and just pry up on that to break them apart. Then you can take it apart. You won't wreck anything. Because what you don't want to do is try and pull it apart, because what it'll do is it'll rip that center contact right out of your centerpiece here, and that's going to be an issue. Contactors are back in. Everything was double checked with my wiring diagram, so let's give it a try. Right, trying forward. Oh, yeah. Try reverse. Sweet, it's up and running. You know, there was a couple times I thought for sure I was going to hear the fat lady sing, but I stayed vigilant and we got her fixed. All in, this project cost me about $110. If I would have just bought the one switch, which is all I needed, it would have only costed me $50, but I have extra parts, and thank God the one switch would actually fix both my contactors. But in any case, the Taian company might still be around, and they have a new line of relays or contacts, and they usually have a white face. And as far as a direct replacement, I don't know if they do have one that is for mine. I haven't seen one. Anyway, they're also selling under a company called Enco, and they make plenty of switches. So if someone out there knows of a direct replacement switch, I will pin it to the comments on this video so you don't have to go through and try and rebuild your old ones.